Aleph 17. Yoma. Ravada Breder Yitzchak Hi Lishka Aktsoi Miktsaya. We're still talking about the Beis HaMoikid, where we had those offices of Lechem Haponim and the Lishkas Hatloim, and we thought that they were really all in a corner, but the Lishkas Hatloim was not in the corner; it was moved over a little bit to the middle, according to the way the Meforshim learn. The Osim Mitzafon, somebody who walked in from the north, Mischazele Bedorim, looked like it was in the south. The Osim Bedorim, Mischazele Betzafon, meaning it wasn't clearly in the corner, it was halfway. Umistavra, Dibimarav is Droy Misavi. And the normal location was towards the southwest corner, which is where it is. Imai, Midra, Mina Lechem Aponim. We showed a stira as to where the office where they made the Lechem Aponim was sort of opposite on the other side. And we showed a stira regarding that location, because Amar Avuna Breder of Yeshua, and that's really not a stira, rather Marka Choshev Derech Yomi, Marka Choshev Derech Small. One was talking about if you walk turning right, and one really holds that he was describing it turning left, but it's really in the same location, which was Mizrachis Droinis, was southeast. And now, if you're going to tell me that the Lishkas Hatloim, that the place where they would house the sheep was in the southwest corner, that's why you can make this answer in the stira between where the Lechem Haponim was based on what direction you walk in. But if you're going to tell me that the Lishkas Hatloim was in the northwest corner, so my truth to Lechem Haponim, that doesn't solve our Lechem Haponim problem. Then it's clearly that the Lishkas Hatloim was southwest. Shmami no, that's a good proof. Bomer Mar. I thought that it was a general rule. I think Elazar mentioned it as well. Every time you walk in the base of English, wherever you went, you always would turn right first. So how could you say that one person was describing it while you're turning right, and the other person was describing it while you're turning left? You can't turn left in the base of English. So, and for the Gemara Hanamili avoid, that's correct. When the Kohanim are actually performing the avodah, you always turn right. Aval Hacha, here where we're just sort of describing the geography of these locations, it's not a Maisa that they're doing it. It's just a cheshbon trying to figure out where it is. In that, you can see how people might make a mistake in terms of its placement, whether you're turning right or whether you're turning left. Then the Mishnah said, the Kohen Gadol sort of had first dibs. On every day, the Kohen Gadol could show up and say, I want to be makriv of that korban, or I want to take that piece of meat. And he had the rishus to do so. What does that mean that he had the first dibs in turning being makriv? He could come in and say, you know what? I want to be makriv this korban oila. Normally, remember, we went through a pious, right? Every day they went through a lottery, like 4 lotteries. Who's going to shecht it? Who's going to do the ktoires? That was the daily oila satomid, both in the morning and the afternoon. But the Kohen Gadol could show up and say, I want to do it today. Or mincha zuani makriv. I want to be makriv this mincha. So that's the concept of makriv chelik barosh. What does it mean? Ketzad noitel chelik barosh. What does it mean that he could take first dibs? Remember, every korban chatas the meat of the animal was eaten by the Kohanim. It's not like an Ola where the animal is completely burnt on the Mizbeach. By a Korban Chatas, only the dam was Nizrak. The Chaylev was also burnt on the Mizbeach, but the meat was eaten. So the Kohen Gadol could eat any piece of meat he wants. Or Asham Zani Oichel. Asham was treated exactly the same way. Now remember, a Yisrael cannot eat a Chatas or an Asham. They Kodshim could only be eaten by the Kohanim in the Azara. For example, we can eat a Shlomim. That could be eaten anywhere in Yerushalayim. Didn't have to be eaten in the Beis HaMikdash even. And regular Jews could eat a Shlomim. That's the Korban Chagiga that we brought on Yontif was a Korban Shlomim that allowed us to eat it. A Chatas and an Asham could only be eaten by Kohanim. They also
Ernie,
yes.
We talk about all these different lishkas and storage places and the maracha, blah blah blah. Where's the dining room? Where do people eat? No, seriously. I mean, were there picnic tables? Like nobody. I don't recall that anybody says this is where you brought a shlamim and you had 40 loaves of bread and and so you shared it with all. Where did you eat?
Well, the 40 loaves of bread are part of a korban toda that could be taken to Shalim and be eaten there.
But a person can eat in the base of a kohanim. Where did they eat?
So a lot of those lishkas. Remember, the lishka where the Kohen Gadol slept for 7 days. That's his apartment. So he could go back to his apartment and eat there. I'm sure he had a shulchan and he had a table and a chair, and that's where
I'm sure you had to have hundreds of kohanim and then Yisraelim that had to eat.
You had a lot of rooms there. You had a lot of rooms.
Yeah, you had all those lishkas, many of the lishkas. For example, in that Beis HaMoikid, they would sleep there at night. So there were physical structures that they could go in, and I'm sure they had eating. I'm sure they could eat there as well. By the way, Kenny, you could eat anywhere in the Azara. So, whether
that's what I mean. Was the Azara basically you brought a blanket, or there were picnic tables? Like,
well, I would say this. Remember, we said there were 8 tables, but those were set up to clean, to take the intestines out and to rinse and to wash and all that. There, the Mishnah actually told us what they did with those tables. But for example, maybe they had like the Azara was a pretty big place. They could sit down and eat there. But
Ezra's Noshim. They can eat Ezra's Noshim.
No, the Ezra's Noshim is not the Azara. When we say that a Chatas or an Asham have to be eaten in the Azara, that's the Ezra's Kohanim, where
Kenny,
Jews cannot walk.
It's a huge piece of land over there.
Huge. No, but he's correct that it doesn't ever describe.
It doesn't mention
that they have tables and chairs. That's correct, but I'm sure there were. They're not
It doesn't seem that anything to do with the tables. There was no kedusha in the tables and chairs. So the only things that are mentioned in the Gemara from the Psukim and everything that's got some kadosh on it. Eating was, I guess, they weren't gastronomical in those days.
They were. They had to finish all that meat.
I understand. Yeah. I know what I'm saying. I'm just joking.
Right. They had to finish that meat, and I'm sure there were accommodations made for them to eat it in a kavadika way. It's not, as maybe as Walter said, those were not the klei hakoyda, they're not the kli shares, all the various kalim, the shulchan, the menorah that are described very detailed, and also these posts that we described and the nanosim that they held up. Those are the various things that were done in processing the animals as a korban. Now, the final act was eating it. And you're right, Kenny, there's really no description of that we've had so far.
Very good.
I don't remember anywhere in Masechta Tamid or Midos where it describes that either. It does.
What did Yisrael? They can take it home.
Yes, they could take it home in Yerushalayim. Yeah. Shlamim could be eaten in Yerushalayim. Pesach could be eaten in Yerushalayim, anywhere. Of course, they took it home. Now, it does say, we will have a Mishnah somewhere that will tell us that the Kohanim could cook the meat any way they wanted. They could barbecue it, they could broil it, they could boil it, they could eat it with mustard and horseradish. It describes all of that. They could eat it, and they could eat the meat any way they wanted. So if the Mishnah tells us to that detail, it's clear that they have ability to sit down like a mensch with a chair and a table and to eat it. It's just, those things are not described to us, but I'm sure they also took it back to the various lishkos that they slept in. Weiter. So we say, the Kohen Gadol chatazu ani oichel, osham ze ani oichel. He could choose whatever korban he wanted. Noitel chala mishtei chalos. On Shavuos, they brought the shtei alechem. He could take one of the loaves. He could take one of them. Arba oy chomesh mimayis alechem aponim. He could take 4 or 5. The Gemara will explain why 4, why 5 of the lechem aponim. There were 12 of them. 12 chalos. Rabbi Yomer lo'elam chomesh. Rabbi says no, he only took 5, not 4. Shenemar v'haisa la'aharon u'levanov, which means mechza la'aharon, mechza levanov. So Aaron could take half, or whatever Kohen Gadol replaces Aaron, and the other Kohanim take the other half. Rashi says, "Aval b'shein shtei mesrei." Even though lechem aponim are 12, yesh ben shtei chalos she'enim mischalkos. There were 2 chalos that were not divided among the Kohanim. So of the 10, the Kohen Gadol could take half, 5. Freit the Gemara hagufa kasha. We have an internal contradiction. Amrit noitel chala achos b'shtei chalos. The beginning of the Mishnah started by saying that on Shavuos, when we bring the shtei alechem, the Kohen Gadol could take 1, which is what, 50%. And we now know who is the Tana that holds that you can take half. Mani Rebbe, the Omer Pagashakim. Okay, Eimim Mitziosa. Okay, what came after shtei chalos? It says, how did they divide the lechem aponim? Arba oy chomesh b'maisa lechem aponim. 4 or 5. So that's Ason Rabbanon. That's back to the sheet of the Rabbanon that he doesn't take half. So the Amri Lo Shakel Palga. And then Ema Seifa. Again, Rebbe piped up at the end, Rebbe Amri Lo Elam Chomesh. Comes out, Reish of the Sefer Rebbe, Mitzvah Rabbanon? How could that be? Amar Abaya, really, Reisha u'Mitziyasa are the Rabbanon. So umoidi Rabbanon beprusa. A prusa is like a piece. The lavor achor lemeisur lekohen gadol. It's not polite to give the kohen gadol less than a whole loaf. And we're going to see, according to the Shittas of Chachamim, they're going to have, one of those chalas is going to be divided into a piece, and it's to give the Kohen Gadol less than a whole loaf. It's not. So really, Arba Chomesh fulfills that. And then the Gemara will explain my Arba Chomesh. We'll wait. We'll do that tomorrow.
Maybe we should learn a little bit more because it's a long block tomorrow, and then we have speak this year, 8:00. So we learn a little more?
We'll learn. I can learn. Well, I'll learn to the Mishnah.
Yeah.
I'll learn to the Mishnah. It's a very short blood tomorrow. Umay Arba Chomesh Rabbanon the Amri.
Are you going to the 18?
I'm going to 18 just a little bit.